Hello my little jam tarts. Hidden Waters Tarot. I am very excited about this. Now I'm just gonna be straight with you. I did open this one up as soon as I got it, but the flick through was very brief. I was not committed to the flick through. I was very eager to like begin immediately journaling with it and looking through it more, but I decided, you know what, I still want my impressions to be pretty raw when I do the video, so I'm gonna go ahead now. I did see Hidden Waters a couple of times on YouTube already in the circles that I kind of pay attention to and the people I'm subscribed to. I will leave below the link to Avalon's first impressions of this deck, which I really enjoyed hearing about. And now it's my turn. This deck was created by a YouTuber. Her name is Luna Solare, and is that right? Solara? I think, I don't know. I will leave her channel below. She got in touch with me about this deck, wondering if I would like it, given the strength of my passion for Orbifold and decks that use, you know, non-human figures. I've also been very supportive of the Starlight Dragon Tarot campaign on Indiegogo for the same kind of reason. I like abstract decks. I'm really moving into that kind of territory. I'm loving moving away from the Rider-Waite kind of imagery and the Rider-Waite setups, even though I adore decks that play with that Rider-Waite concept. I'm really moving towards decks that have much more kind of abstract art, non-human forms, and also human forms but based on other things that have nothing to do with Rider-Waite, like mythology or fairy tales, that kind of thing. I took one look at the website and one look at the images from the Hidden Waters Tarot, and I absolutely fell head over heels in love. I emailed her back immediately and I said that I felt it was going to be some kind of a classic in the abstract tarot world, that it was going to go places because it was just so stunning, and immediately I just couldn't wait to get my hands on it. She very kindly sent me a copy, which is one of the perks of my job from time to time, and I'm so excited now to really go through it and talk to you guys about it, because it's just, I'm very excited about this one. I love the name of it, Hidden Waters Tarot, and I love the fact that it's based on the Rorschach test. It's based on the concept of the ink blot tests. It comes in this really lovely tin, which I really appreciate because it's understated, it's quite minimalist, it's sturdy, and if you wanted to remove it and put it into a bag, you could definitely use the tin for other things. It did come wrapped, but obviously I removed the wrapping to get into the meat and potatoes of the situation. It comes in an organza bag, which I love. I really love an organza bag. I'm a witch, so I collect organza bags for my mojos and my spells and gifts to people and stuff like that. And then it comes with a few cards just to let you know what the dealio is. So I've got the Luna Solare business card here, is the first of the cards, which was sent to me by Anna. Anna Torian is the woman behind the Luna Solare Etsy shop and the Luna Solare YouTube channel. Then I've got the Hidden Waters Tarot first edition card, which I really love to have them. I think some people think they're superfluous, but I really like to have them. I think it's good if you're ever going to sell a deck on, which believe me, I'm never going to fucking do with this deck. But it's good if you want to sell a deck on to show it's the first edition and it's got the card there, you know, for collectors, they like to have that kind of thing. And I also think it's really cute for things like bookmarks and stuff like that. It's also very cool if you tarot journal, which I do, and you use photocopies or scans of the images, which I do, because you can put that as the title page for the journaling that you're going to be doing, you know, so it's a very sweet and simple way of showing in your ring binder or your bound journal that yes, I'm journaling about Hidden Waters now and it's the first edition. So it's really useful for that as well if you were looking for other ideas. This is the back for the deck, which I absolutely adore. I just think that's really gorgeous. I like the fact that it covers most of the back of the card, and I like the fact that it's also a Rorschach ink blot image. It says here about the deck: the Hidden Waters Tarot is a tarot deck that delves into the subconscious. Created by illustrator Anna Torian, it is a system based on the famous Rorschach ink blot test. The Hidden Waters Tarot works on the premise that the individual subconscious can be projected onto the abstract images, unbinding latent abilities of perception. Vibrant colours of reds, violets, blues and gold are used throughout the imagery in order to induce certain emotional aspects of sympathetic associations. There are no visually accurate or inaccurate interpretations to the images. There is no right or wrong way of interpreting them, except using our own personal connection to the extrasensory perception. The paintings were created by using ink and paint, creating vibrant colours that were then mirrored. Gestures and lines were incorporated to vary the visual patterns and create distinctive, non-repetitive images. The name associations that are given to the cards are based on the traditional Rider-Waite tarot, inducing a direct mental correlation to the specific representations of each card, while at the same time not imposing traditional visual elements, but rather leaving the subconscious open and flexible to new insights. So it's really based on that idea that when you see a Rorschach image, you impose your subconscious onto it, and then whatever you impose onto it, whatever kind of lens your consciousness places onto what you perceive, that tells you something about where you are in your psyche at the time and how you are viewing the message of the card, and also of course the association that you have with the name of the card in this case, which I think is really interesting because it's that extra little bit, you know. With the Rorschach test, there are no actual names for the images that you see when you use those tests. If you're doing a Rorschach test online, which I've done quite a few times, you normally get like multiple choice. And then one of the choices is like something else. So you can be, it normally says you see a face, you see a butterfly, you see the body of a woman, you see whatever. And then it will be like you see something else entirely. And then when you do a Rorschach test with a therapist, there are no multiple choice, you know, questions. It's just like there's no multiple choice survey, you just say exactly what you see. The idea of illustrating a tarot deck using the traditional 78 card Rider-Waite names with Rorschach ink blot images is amazing, because not only do you impose your images and your ideas from your subconscious onto each card, but you also have your prior associations with what the name of the card means. And that was what's so interesting for me when I did the first little run through. I did look at every card, but I didn't really allow myself to dwell because, like I said, I wanted my impressions to be fresh. So let's get to it. It's flexible but sturdy enough cardstock. It's playing cardstock, I guess you would call it. As you guys know from previous reviews and in first impressions that I've done, I don't give a fuck about cardstock. In fact, I prefer it to be more flexible than it is hard, because I have quite small hands and I like to really get a handle on the cards to shuffle them, and I never shuffle too violently anyway. You know, I'm not throwing my cards around in a bag or shuffling them to fuck, you know, really violently. I'm just shuffling gently in my little tarot corner doing readings for my clients. So cardstock is not really a big deal to me, but for those of you that like it really, really hard, you might need to go a little bit gentler on these. I just like to be able to get that bend. I like to get a little bit of a bend. It just feels more satisfying for me. I mean, obviously I don't want it to be fucking tissue paper thin, but I'm getting sidetracked now. But I when cards are too hard, you know, it's one of the only things I'll say about my Psychic Oracle Tarot for the Heart and my Psychic Oracle Tarot. I always forget whether it's Tarot Oracle or Oracle Tarot, but those two, the only thing I'll say about them that I really don't enjoy that much when I'm reading is that they're too fucking hard, you know. They're quite difficult sometimes to get a good shuffle on because they're so hard. So I prefer that more flexible end of the spectrum. Okay, looking at them right now, I'm going to tell you, I will be giving some of my impressions of what I see in these Rorschach images. If you know that you want to get Hidden Waters, then I would recommend not watching this video in its entirety, because I will be giving some impressions. And if you're the kind of person that has quite a decent memory and, you know, you tend to kind of keep in mind what people say, then I don't want you to have the mucky paws of my subconscious all over your first impressions of the deck. That would be horrible. So just bear in mind, I'm going to be talking about what I see, and this is all about imposing your own ideas onto the deck. So just keep that in mind, please. So we begin with the Fool, which is totally black and white and grey, which I really love. And I noticed already that, you know, in the description, on the description card, it does say that Anna has chosen to do some individual line work, you know, on one side or the other, so that it's not completely an accurate mirror. And you can see that straight away from the Fool, that there are certain parts that are kind of different lengths or slightly different in their shape, which I really love. I love the fact that the first card is monochrome, black, white and grey. I think that's fantastic. And I'm definitely getting a feeling here personally of a bird, a hummingbird, something like that, a small baby bird or a small baby animal. I'm also really interestingly getting ovaries and a womb. It looks like, to me, it looks like, you know, one of those pictures you would see in a biology book in science as a kid, of like the ovaries and the womb and down into the vaginal canal, that kind of thing, which is really interesting for the Fool, I think, for me. The Magician, you get that instant shot of claret, which is so fucking beautiful. And that, you know what, when I first saw that, it reminded me of a long, like an animal's face, long, kind of like a ram or a horse or something. But now it's reminding me of two people facing each other. and having kind of some kind of a cerebral conversation that's like sparking off in their minds, and it's like an ideas factory, I think. It's so gorgeous. I love the fact that the magician has that shot of red, that really deep claret going through it. That's awesome. God, the Empress is so gorgeous. That's the first shot of gold in the deck, and couldn't be more appropriate. It's beautiful, and it actually reminds me of a woman with arms wide open in this incredible dress of plumage, and there's something joyful about that. There's something really, it's just so intoxicating, this deck. It's ridiculous, and you could see different things in each image. You definitely could, you could let your psyche dance with each card to such a deep extent. It's beautiful. I like the way that Justice is significantly imbalanced at the bottom, where that like foundation is, where it peaks out like that. That really makes me think about the concept of justice and the concept of karma and the concept of equality, and how these things are far more complex than we are encouraged to perceive them to be sometimes. Oh, the Hanged Man reminds me of a man in a lotus position, which is so cool. Like the bits that come out to the side look like knees. And then actually the bits that are coming out of the bottom could definitely be balls. Awkward. To me, the tower kind of looks like a figure that is being split in half down the middle. To me, it looks like the face is being split apart at the top and the legs are being pulled apart. And that definitely could have some distressing connotations to it in terms of the way my psyche has interpreted it. I love the fact as well that you can look at which ones she's chosen to just keep as black and white and which ones she's chosen to embellish with colour, because that to me is really interesting. Like the Fool is black and white, Death is black and white, the Tower is black and white. I know I'm not showing you every card because I'm not into showing every card, but you know, I definitely feel like that is an interesting exploration as well, just which one she's chosen to place some colour into and which one she hasn't. The Star is a weird one for me because this is really tapping me into something I was actually thinking about earlier today. I was thinking about how I would personally choose to illustrate the Star card if I was doing a collage tarot deck, which I often think about doing and I often think about starting. And I thought to myself that I would choose to use a female figure, but I would place the star over one of her eyes or around one of her eyes, so her eye was illuminated by a star, as if to say that she has stars in her eyes and she has the high vision of her own potential, and it's whether or not she chooses to take that from the mind to the heart in order to know what she's really prepared to do and how she's really prepared to shine in the world. So it's about vision, it's about the vision of the star-like quality and whether or not she can actually bring that into consciousness and into manifestation. And if you look at the Star card in this deck, you'll notice that there's this plume of incredible gold light up where one would suppose that the head of the figure of the star would be if this was a figure. And that's kind of interesting to me that that has come up, because the star is actually inside the circle, which appears to be, for me, somewhat representative of the human head. So that's kind of weird, because I literally was just thinking this morning as I was making some zines that I would definitely portray the star that way. I would seek to have a female head with a star somewhere around the eye or somehow incorporated into the eye. That would be how I would do it. The world reminds me of the Yggdrasil in Norse mythology, the world tree. There's also, in a sense, a feeling for me again of female reproductive anatomy, and there's also a feeling for me of the brain and the two halves of the brain too. I love that line work at the top. It really does make me think of human biology, of what's going on within, which is a really interesting place to take the world to, isn't it, as a theme. I love the fact, as I'm going into the minors, that Anna has not used specific colours for each of the minors. Like, she's not done all the swords blue and all of the, you know, pentacles green or whatever. There's still a big variation in the colours that she's chosen to use throughout the major arcana, the minor arcana, sorry, and I think that is really awesome. There's no kind of overarching sense of like, oh yes, these are all immediately representative of cups. I can see immediately that these are the pentacles, and I love that. I love decks that take every card on its own merit and make every card different, and I think that's why I've so quickly kind of fallen in love with Mary L, because it does that as well. It doesn't give the cards, it doesn't give the minor arcana overarching themes for each suit. It takes each one as it is, and I think that gives the minor arcana the amount of significance per card that the minor arcana deserves, you know. When I was first learning tarot, I was very much kind of bound into this very traditional idea that the major arcana was the most important and the minor arcana was lesser important, or the major arcana was about massive internal shifts and the minor arcana was about external stuff happening in the world. And I'm so glad that I've reached a point in my learning and in my understanding of tarot where I can get rid of that idea now, because it doesn't work for me. I think the minor arcana can be absolutely just as important and as essential as cards that everything pivots on as anything that the major arcana offers. I think every card is as important as the next. So I like decks that use each minor arcana card as a chance for fresh expression, rather than, you know, all of these are blue or all of these are green. I mean, I work with a lot of those decks as well, but I really like ones that take the minors on their own merit, so I'm really happy that Anna decided to do this. The Three of Swords makes me think of a heart, it makes me think of a muscle, it makes me think of a sleeping face, and it makes me think of a very beautiful piece of jewellery or a really elaborate crown or something. And there's so much to work on with that. That's really awesome to me. I definitely feel like journaling about that right now, actually. I won't though, I'll carry on. Four of Swords reminds me of the sun reflected onto the ocean. And now I'm looking at that bit in the middle that's standing up, that black bit that's facing upwards. That looks like a man walking on the water, or a figure walking on the water, which is also really cool. The Six of Swords is interesting because straight away I thought of an aerial view of a boat. The way that you can see, like, is it the bow or the stern or whatever, the front of a boat where it comes out like this. You can see that straight away, and it reminded me immediately of a boat before I'd even thought about the fact that there is a boat in the Six of Swords. So that is quite interesting. That's almost quite, I would say, obvious imagery to me. Not in a bad way, it's just that it definitely immediately made me think of a boat. I like the fact that the Six of Swords and the Seven of Swords are quite similar. They have a relationship. You know, that's how I feel about it. The shapes are very similar. They do have a relationship, and I really enjoy that. And I would definitely, this is definitely causing me to think about how the Six of the Swords and the Seven of Swords are related to each other. Like, in what ways are they related to each other? And this is a common exercise that I actually used to do when I was studying tarot decks quite a lot of the time, is I would just take 2 or 3 cards completely at random and decide, how are these cards related to each other? How do they have a relationship and how do they differ? And that is a really good exercise for anybody who's looking to push themselves, is just to pick 2 random cards out of a deck and decide, how are they related? You know, how do they compare in terms of similarities, and then which messages are completely different and can't really be cross-referenced in any way. The Eight of Swords immediately right off the bat reminded me of a very tight and restrictive bodice of some kind around a person's waist or around their torso. And that's interesting because of what the Eight of Swords is representative of and how it's normally kind of focused on in tarot. I love the Page of Swords. I get a sense of upwards momentum from the Page of Swords. It's like a rush upwards, you know, and that's really cool. It's almost like a blue flame rushing out of the earth, which is just so much an image for me of that transience and that momentum that the Suit of Swords is representative of. Oh my god, I think that's the first proper purple I've seen so far in the deck, with the Queen of Swords. That's beautiful, with that real plume of red in the middle, which is so representative for me of the heart space. And I almost feel at the top that that is a face, that is a really calm, eyes closed kind of face with a beautiful, like, embellished crown. It's so lovely to see that lavender purple in the Queen of Swords. That is so fucking regal. The first thing that comes to mind with the Five of Wands is separation, like 2 arms trying to keep 2 invisible energies apart somehow. I feel like there's also a conflict with the energy in the Five of Wands because of the colours. The colours are very frantic. There's a kind of sky blue there, there's a deep royal blue, there's the gold, there's orange, there's red mixed in and black. It's very fraught. I think the Nine of Wands looks like a figure in charge of an operation surrounded by smaller kind of like minion kind of figures, which is really interesting, and I'll have to think more about that, because I often read the Nine of Wands as kind of taking the burden onto yourself and overstressing yourself and kind of refusing to delegate or refusing to accept help or admit that you need to stop kind of thing. That is a common interpretation for me of the Nine of Wands. Of course it will be, you know, it will be depending on the client's energy and what I'm getting from the notes that they've given to me and what's required. But the Nine of Wands for me is often about that refusal to delegate and that refusal to take a step back. So it's kind of interesting to me that the first thing I thought of with this particular interpretation was somebody who has help, who has quite a lot of help, and may also be kind of assuming a superior attitude over those people that are helping in a way. Whoa, the Knight of Wands just looks like a magician at a table, like making some seriously crazy chaos magic style shit happen in a ceremonial cloak, and just like, wow, that's absolutely gorgeous. That's like it's like an altar to me. That's perfect for the Knight of Wands. I love it. I always, you know, find that we get stuck into this rut of thinking of the Knight of Wands as the king of creativity and the king of creative expression and self-expression. But, you know, he's got a wand at the end of the day. I mean, he's definitely giving us magician vibes. He's definitely giving us those magic vibes too. The Six of Cups looks like a shield of arms to me. I don't know what I'm trying to say. You know, like is it a shield? A coat of arms. There we go. It looks like a coat of arms to me. It looks like something that you'd see on a shield or something, or yeah, on some armour, on the wall of a grand castle. The Page of Cups to me looks a little bit like a candle holder with the candles having burned down and maybe just burning blue flames very delicately as they're about to go out. That's the initial impression that I get. Everything that you see with this deck, you immediately associate it with what you already know about the card that you're looking at. So you see something and you recognise it, and then you look at the name of the card and you really try and connect, like, okay, what does almost burnt out candles mean about the Page of Cups? And to me it would mean the end of a dinner party, you know, because the Page of Cups to me is so much about that socialising and communing with people on that deeper level and empathising and communicating and learning about people. So to me that's almost like a hostess with the mostess kind of card almost. I really think Hidden Waters is a treasure. It's very, very, it offers something fresh and different, and it offers us more of that abstract stuff that so many of us who feel like we're on a certain level of our progression with tarot are now looking to move on to, you know. We're looking to move away from, I guess you call it safer imagery, but not even that, just kind of like imagery that is more commonly understood. And we're looking to really like drop into our hearts at a certain point when we examine our relationship with tarot. And decks like Hidden Waters can definitely help us to do that. I think it's a triumph. I think Anna has done something really special. I think it's a great idea. I'm surprised nobody's come up with connecting Rorschach to tarot before, but it's fucking so innovative and I'm so excited about it. I can't wait now to begin to use this for clients. I'm going to do a few test readings and a little bit of journaling, but for this one I don't think it will be too long before I begin to use it for clients, which I'm so excited about, because sometimes I get my hands on a deck and I know it's going to be a while. Other times I know it's going to be sooner that I can dive in, you know. With one or two I've dived in immediately, I'm just going to be honest, but you know, I know that for this one it's going to be just a little bit of journaling, just a few test runs, and then I'll be breaking it out, and I cannot wait. Anna, thank you so much for giving me the chance to look at this deck. I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited for you. I think that this is really going to get people talking, and I can even imagine just, you know, being in some kind of study group associated with this deck, or blogging about it, or like really sharing with people what my perceptions have been in terms of the imagery that I've seen and how I connect it to the card meanings that I already have kind of like installed into my psyche. So it's definitely something you could go the distance with. It's meaty, there's a lot on the bone with this particular deck, and I just feel so privileged that I've gotten a chance to look through it and that it's in my possession. It's gorgeous. You've done a really good job with it, Anna, And yeah, I'm just I'm fascinated by it and so happy to have it. I'd love to know if any of you guys have it on your wish list or have been interested in purchasing it as a result of watching this or watching Avalon's video or anywhere else that you've seen Hidden Waters. And what are your impressions of abstract decks overall? Do you feel like you're at a stage on your tarot journey where you can get to grips with them? Are you really excited by them? Are you really turned off by them? I'd love to know in a wider context what your perception of abstract decks is. So yeah, like hit me up in the comments below and let me know. Much love and see you in the next video. Blessed be.